we're joined by the man who's brought some of the UK's most notorious killers to justice.
Yeah, former detective Colin Sutton was crucial to the capture of serial killer Levi Bellfield and integral to putting Night Stalker DelroyGrant behind bars.
He was portrayed by Martin Clunes in the hugely popular drama Manhunt, and he is now sharing his stories firsthand in a brand new UK tour. And Colin joins us now. This is like mid-tour, isn't it? Where are you off to tonight?
I'm off to Blackburn tonight to do something. It's not, the actual tour doesn't start until Saturday.
Right.
Oh, okay.
But it's a hangover from something else I was doing that I've got to go to Blackburn tonight.
Busy man, that's why you're so smart today.
Well, in case I get stuck on the M6. Yeah.
You never know, he's always thinking
Man
ahead.
in demand. Colin, it's lovely to see you. Yeah. There is a fascination with the world of crime, particularly true crime now, and I can imagine there's a reason, because your tour goes on for a very long time. You're going all over the country, aren't you? It must be brilliant for you to be able to share some of the insight and stories from your experience and your life as a professional with all these passionate true crimers that come along to hear what you've got to say.
Yeah, that's really what motivated it, I suppose, Ben. It was, you know, I've written books and I do a documentary series, but the opportunity to be one-to-one almost, you feel like you are in a theatre, and you can go into more detail and there's kind of it's a two-way thing. So, yeah, it's huge fun, and it's also, I think, important. You know, these people are good enough to read what I've written and watch what I do on the TV, so why not go out and meet them?
Yeah, and it's not super serious. It's not super dark. Like it's supposed to be entertaining too, right?
Yeah, I try to make it entertaining. I'm not a very serious person.
No.
Strangely enough.
In fact, you told Martin Clunes that, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did say the first. I thought the only criticism I had of the first series was that he was just too serious, but he nailed it for the second one. But yeah, I mean, it's not a criminology lecture by any means. It's, you know, we start off talking about, we'll just say, how do we do it? Because people used to ask me when I retired, how do you do a murder investigation? So I don't know, I just used to do it. And actually that got me thinking and worked out the sort of the formula that was going on in here, how to express that to other people. So we start off with that so they have an idea, and then talk a bit about the different sorts of murder investigations that there are, because they're not all the same by any means. And then the second half, look again at the Levi Bellfield and DelroyGrant cases, but in detail about aspects of them that really haven't been rehearsed that much in the public eye, if you like. So I hope people, even if they're the most ardent true crime fan, will come away thinking they've learnt something.
So you'll be sharing details of the investigation that perhaps hadn't been made public previously and now can be, to give them a real insight. Let's talk about that, because the Levi Bellfield case was a career-defining case for you. Take us back to when you first got put on that case, Colin. What were your thoughts?
Why me? I think
Really?
Well, kind of technically why me? It wasn't my turn, if you like. There's like a rota for when you take on a new case. And I was moving house. It was a Friday, and the following Friday I was moving house. So you can imagine what I was like and what the house was like. And when you know, not really the circumstances in which you want to be taking on the biggest case of your career. But when I first went out and I realised what it was like, poor Amelie DelroyGrant, it's 20 years ago now. Amelie had been just, you know, tragically and just savagely beaten down to death on Twickenham Green. I got home that night. I was at work for many, many hours, and I got home in the early hours of the morning and sat in the garden with a can of beer, thinking to myself, well, am I up to this?
Yeah.
Because you do ask that question, you know.
You doubt yourself, I suppose.
Sometimes. Yeah, and I kind of thought in the end that, well, someone's got to do it. It's fallen to me. And I think as I've got older, I've realised that the best moments in your life are those when you can step outside yourself and say, is that me? Am I doing that? Because it means you're pushing the boundaries and you're, you know, exploring what you're capable of. And that was the case for me with that case. I won't say it defined me as a person, but it certainly defined me as a policeman.
And what were those moments within that case as well, Colin, that suddenly started bringing it all towards Levi Bellfield and you piecing those bits together?
Well, the first thing that happened really was that I had this wonderfully talented team that were really, really good. And you know, if I was good at anything, it was getting the best out of them. And that was crucial to it. They spotted this little van on the CCTV and said it's right there at the time she's being murdered. And so, you know, we need to find out who that is. And then, fortunately, one of Bellfield's ex-partners had come forward and said, I think you need to look at him. It could be him. But she was one in 129 women that had come forward to say this is it could have been my husband, ex-husband, partner, ex-partner. And it's only really when you get more than one person saying the same name or you've got other corroborating evidence. But then when we found out that he had this little white van that matched the one that had been seen in the CCTV, then we start to look at him. And you kind of realise, yeah, this is a really good suspect. This is worth putting all the resources into. But it's a risk, you know. And there were times when I thought, if this, you know, if we're wrong and this all goes horrible, then I don't know what I'll end up doing, because we'll have wasted a lot of time and a lot of effort. But you have to take those risks sometimes, I guess, if you're going to succeed.
And it's not just the risks either. I mean, some of these cases and some of these murders are really dark, they're really grisly, they're a horrific thing. And you've done over 30 of them. How do you balance that emotionally as well and just being a human being? I think I learned very early on in my police career that there was a work life and there was a home life, and I was always able to keep that separation. It's hard to do.
Not everybody does that.
No, it's hard.
And fortunately, these days, the support mechanisms that are in place for today's police officers, if they feel at all, you know, that mentally ill or unwell, are much better than we had back in the 80s when I started.
Yeah.
But it's about being professional. You know, people say, how can you be in the same room as somebody like Bellfield or Grant and knowing what they've done? And I think the answer to that was, you're just acting professionally. You just know that there's a job to be done there. And I think the only time in 30 years I felt really, really close to losing it was in the Night Stalker case, when I've got a 94-year-old woman grabbing me by the hand and pulling me down to her and whispering in my ear, he interfered with me. Oh. And at that moment, had he been standing next to me, I don't think I'd have been able to control what I did, you know, because that was... But that's the only one. That's the only time, really, that I felt that I was close to not being professional.
Colin, we're gripped.
I mean, I could sit here and listen to you all day.
Absolutely gripped, and we've only had a few minutes with you, so the tour will be absolutely wonderful. The Makings of a Murderer 2, The Real Manhunter. The tour kicks off on Suffolk on Saturday, and you're going
September
all over
7th.
the country, aren't you?
Yeah, and the Isle of Man and Ireland and Scotland, everywhere.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload new content every day, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. And we'll see you in the morning.